Daosa Whispers of Anling, a Scholar's Beginning. Picture, if you will, the gentle mist that rises from the Wei River at dawn, drifting across the fertile plains of ancient China, carrying with it the whispered promises of a new day. It is the year 45 CE, and in the scholarly town of Anling, something extraordinary is about to unfold. Not the clash of armies or the rise of emperors, but the quiet arrival of a soul who will reshape how we understand wisdom itself. The courtyard of the Ban family residence awakens slowly, as courtyards have for centuries. Bamboo rustles against carved wooden screens. The soft shuffle of servants' feet mingles with the distant call of cranes returning from their night's rest. And in the women's quarters, a child draws her first breath, a breath that will one day give voice to the silent stories of countless women who came before her. They name her Ban Zhao, and though she cannot know it yet, she has been born into a world where learning flows like water through the channels of her family's daily life. Her father, Ban Zhao, sits even now in his study, brush poised above silk, wrestling with the weight of history itself. He is a historian, a man who believes that the past speaks to those patient enough to listen. Around him, scrolls unfurl like sleeping dragons, each one holding fragments of the great story he hopes to tell, the story of China itself. But Ban Zhao is not just a scholar lost in dusty texts. He is a father who understands something that many of his contemporaries do not, that wisdom recognizes no boundaries of gender. That curiosity burns just as brightly in a daughter's eyes as in a son's. The Han Dynasty has been kind to families like the Bans. This is an age when merit matters, when scholarship opens doors that birth alone cannot. The imperial court hungers for men who can read the old texts, who can navigate the delicate art of governance through understanding rather than force alone. And so the Ban family has prospered, not through conquest or commerce, but through the patient cultivation of knowledge. In the women's quarters, little Zhao's mother tends to her newborn daughter with hands that are themselves no strangers to learning. She can read, a gift not common among women of any class, but treasured in this household where books are valued above jade. She hums softly as she works, ancient melodies that her own mother taught her, songs that carry the wisdom of generations in their gentle rhythms. The seasons turn, as they always have, as they always will. And Zhao grows from infant to child in a house where conversation flows like wine at a feast. Her earliest memories are not of toys or games, but of voices. Her father's deep tones as he discusses philosophy with visiting scholars, her mother's patient explanations of the world beyond their gates, and most importantly, the voice of her elder brother, Ban Gu. Gu is already showing the signs of brilliance that will one day make him famous throughout the empire. Even as a young man, he possesses their father's gift for seeing patterns in the chaos of human events. But unlike many brilliant brothers, Gu does not hoard his learning. He shares it freely with his little sister, recognizing in her dark eyes the same hunger for understanding that drives him. "Tell me about the old queens," little Zhao whispers to him one evening as twilight settles over Anling like a silk coverlet. They sit together in the garden where the jasmine releases its perfume to the gathering dusk. Gu smiles, for this is her favorite request. "Which one tonight, little sister? The Empress Lu, who ruled when emperors could not? Or perhaps Dao, who guided the realm with wisdom when others would have chosen war?" Zhao considers this seriously as she considers all things. At 6 years old, she already possesses the thoughtful nature that will one day make her the most trusted advisor to empresses yet unborn. "Tell me about the ones whose names we don't remember," she says finally, "the ones who were wise, but whose stories got lost." It is a question that reveals the heart of who she is becoming, not content with the famous tales, the celebrated victories. She wants to know about the forgotten ones, the women whose contributions vanished like morning mist simply because no one thought to write them down. Ban Zhao, overhearing from his study window, sets down his brush and smiles. His daughter, he realizes, is already asking the questions that will define her life's work. She wants to know not just what happened, but who has been left out of the telling. The years of Zhao's childhood unfold like a scroll being carefully unrolled. Each day brings new lessons, new discoveries. She learns to hold a brush before most children learn to walk steadily. She memorizes poetry while other girls her age learn only the songs their mothers sing. But this is not a burden to her. It is a gift she receives with the same natural grace with which flowers receive rain. Her father includes her in conversations that would shock other families. When scholars come to visit, little Zhao is permitted to listen from behind the screen that separates the women's quarters from the main hall. She absorbs their debates about governance, their discussions of moral philosophy, their careful parsing of ancient texts. The child has an unusual mind, one visitor observes to Ban Zhao after noticing Zhao's intent attention. It would be a waste not to cultivate it. All minds are unusual. Ban Zhao replies quietly, if we take the trouble to understand them. My daughter's thoughts are as worthy of cultivation as my son's. This is radical thinking, even in the relatively enlightened Han court. But the Ban family has never been ordinary. They are people who believe that wisdom can emerge from unexpected places, that the greatest insights often come from those who have been taught to observe rather than to speak. As Zhao grows from child to young girl, the great work of her family continues around her. Her father labors over his histories, trying to capture the essence of their changing world. Her brother assists him, learning the delicate art of transforming research into narrative, facts into understanding. And Zhao? She watches. She listens. She asks questions that no one else thinks to ask. Why do the histories tell us so little about what women were thinking? She wonders aloud one day as she helps her brother organize their father's research materials. Ban Zhao pauses in his work, struck by the simplicity and profundity of the question. I suppose because women weren't the ones writing the histories. But they were there, Zhao persists. They were watching everything happen. They had thoughts about it all. Where did those thoughts go? It is a question that will haunt her, drive her, shape everything she will become. Where do the thoughts of women go when no one considers them worth preserving? The sun sets over Anling, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson that have inspired poets for 1,000 years. In the Ban family compound, lamps are being lit against the gathering darkness. Soon the family will gather for their evening meal, and the conversation will flow as it always does. Rich with ideas, warm with affection, alive with the possibility that understanding can make the world a better place. But tonight, something has shifted. Tonight, a young girl has asked a question that will echo through the centuries, and in asking it, she has taken the first step toward becoming someone the world has never seen before. A woman who will refuse to let other women's stories disappear into silence. The mist rises again from the Wei River, carrying with it the dreams of all who sleep in its valley. And among those dreams, the quiet determination of a scholar in the making. The courtyard of learning. The first light of dawn finds Ban Zhao already awake, her small fingers tracing the wooden slats of her writing tablet. In the courtyard beyond her window, the morning mist clings to the ancient scholar trees, their branches heavy with the wisdom of countless seasons. This is where her true education begins, not in grand proclamations or formal ceremonies, but in these quiet moments when curiosity meets opportunity. Her father's study opens its doors to her like a temple, welcoming a devoted pilgrim. Here, among towers of bamboo scrolls and the lingering scent of inkstones, she discovers worlds within worlds. The classics unfold before her like maps to distant lands. the Analects with their measured wisdom, the Book of Songs with their ancient melodies still humming between the characters, the Spring and Autumn Annals with their careful chronicle of human triumph and folly. Learning, her father tells her one morning as she struggles with a particularly complex passage, is like tending a garden. Some knowledge grows quickly, bright and obvious as summer flowers. But the deepest understanding, that grows slowly, like the roots of these old trees, patient, persistent, unseen until it becomes unshakable. She nods, though she doesn't yet understand how prophetic these words will prove to be. The rhythm of scholarly life becomes her heartbeat. Morning tutorials with her father, where they parse the meaning of ancient texts character by character. Afternoons spent copying passages until her hand aches, but her memory holds every stroke. Evenings listening to her brother Ban Zhao discuss his ambitious project, a comprehensive history that will capture not just the deeds of emperors, but the full tapestry of their age. It is during one of these evening conversations that she first hears the phrase that will change everything: the Book of Han. Ban Zhao speaks of it with the reverence others reserve for sacred texts. This will be more than mere chronicle, he explains, more than a simple recording of who ruled when and which battles were won or lost. This will be a complete portrait of the Western Han Dynasty, its politics and poetry, its innovations and failures, its great figures and forgotten voices. But how? Young Zhao asks, her voice barely above a whisper. How do you capture the voices that were never recorded in the first place? Her brother pauses, his brush hovering over the silk he's been writing on. It's a question that hadn't occurred to him. And in that pause, something significant passes between them. A recognition, a challenge, a door opening to possibilities neither had previously imagined. Their father, Ban Zhao, watches this exchange with the quiet satisfaction of a teacher who sees his students beginning to surpass him. Years ago, he began collecting materials for this great historical work. Now he sees it taking shape not just in one child's hands, but in the collaborative vision of both his children, each bringing their own perspective to the monumental task. The scrolls multiply around them like living things. Court records and personal letters, official proclamations and private poetry, military dispatches and merchant accounts, the detritus of an entire civilization waiting to be woven into coherent narrative. Ban Zhao learns to read not just the words on silk and bamboo, but the silences between them, the gaps where women's voices should be, but aren't, the spaces where entire lives have been reduced to single sentences, if they're mentioned at all. She begins to understand that history, as it's traditionally recorded, is like a great hall where only certain people are invited to speak. Everyone else, the wives and daughters, the servants and concubines, the female merchants and healers and teachers, they exist in the margins, if they exist at all. What about Empress Lu? She asks one day, looking up from a scroll that mentions the powerful ruler in just 2 dismissive lines. What about her thoughts, her struggles, the decisions she made when she held the empire together? Ban Zhao looks up from his own work, struck again by his sister's ability to see what others miss. The official records, he begins, the official records were written by men who feared her power. Zhao finishes quietly, but that doesn't mean her story isn't worth telling. It just means we have to look harder to find it. And so her education deepens beyond the classical texts. She learns to read between lines, to find the human story beneath the political narrative. When a chronicle mentions that an emperor took a new consort, she wonders about the woman behind that phrase, her hopes, her fears, her journey from whatever life she knew before to the isolated grandeur of the imperial court. The courtyard becomes her second classroom. Here, she practices calligraphy until her characters flow like water, each stroke deliberate and beautiful. Here she memorizes poetry until the ancient verses become part of her breathing. Here she learns the arts that will mark her as an educated woman: music and embroidery, painting and dance. But even in these traditional feminine pursuits, her mind works differently. When she embroiders flowers, she thinks about the women who first cultivated them. When she plays the qin, she wonders about the female musicians whose names were never recorded, alongside their compositions. Every skill becomes a doorway to questions about the women who came before. Her mother watches this intellectual flowering with a mixture of pride and concern. Pride because her daughter's brilliance is undeniable. Concern because the world is not always kind to women who think too deeply or question too boldly. "Knowledge is a gift," she tells Zhao one evening as they sit together in the moonlit courtyard. "But wisdom is knowing how to share that gift without losing yourself in the process." These words, too, will prove prophetic. The seasons turn, and with them, Ban Zhao's understanding deepens. She begins to see patterns in the scrolls that surround her, the way women appear and disappear from historical records like ghosts, briefly visible before fading back into silence. She notices how their stories, when they're told at all, are filtered through male perspectives. Daughters defined by their fathers, wives by their husbands, mothers by their sons. But she also begins to see the spaces where different stories might be told, the moments where a woman's voice, properly researched and carefully presented, might add crucial understanding to the historical record, not to challenge the great work her family is creating, but to complete it, to make it whole. Late at night, when the household sleeps and only the crickets bear witness, she sometimes takes out her own writing materials. By lamplight, she practices crafting the kind of prose that might someday carry these forgotten voices back into the light. The words come slowly at first, then with growing confidence. She doesn't yet know that fate will call upon her to complete her brother's great work when he can no longer continue it himself. She doesn't yet know that she will become the first woman in Chinese history to be appointed as an official court historian. She doesn't yet know that her contributions to the Book of Han will preserve not just the deeds of emperors, but the stories of women whose names might otherwise have been lost forever. Tonight, she is simply a young scholar in training, surrounded by the tools of learning and the infinite possibility of questions not yet asked. Tomorrow will bring new scrolls to study, new characters to master, new connections to discover between the past and the present. But in this moment, in this courtyard where mist rises from ancient stones and knowledge grows like patient roots, the foundation is being laid for something extraordinary. A voice that will speak for the voiceless, a mind that will refuse to accept that half of human experience should remain hidden in shadow. The scholar trees whisper their approval in the gentle night breeze. Ink and silk, the weight of history. The scholar trees whisper their approval in the gentle night breeze, and in their ancient rustling, we hear the echo of something greater beginning to take shape. The monumental work that would consume the Ban family for decades. The Book of Han, even speaking its name carries weight, like holding a jade seal in trembling hands. This was no ordinary chronicle, no simple recording of events to gather dust in imperial archives. This was to be the complete history of the Western Han Dynasty, spanning nearly 3 centuries of human triumph and failure, of emperors and empresses, of wars won and lost, of the delicate dance between heaven and earth that the Chinese believed governed all things. In the lamplight of their study, Ban Zhao had begun this impossible task, his brush moving across silk scrolls with the precision of a master calligrapher. Each character was more than ink. It was permanence, legacy, truth carved into time itself. When he passed away, the weight of this sacred duty fell to his son, Ban Gu, whose brilliant mind embraced the challenge with the fervor of a devotee approaching an altar. But creating history, truly creating it, required more than brilliance. It demanded something approaching divine patience. Picture, if you will, the painstaking process of preserving the past in an age when each word must be earned through physical labor. There are no printing presses humming in distant workshops, no mechanical reproduction of thought and memory. Every single character must be formed by hand, brush dipped in ink made from soot and animal glue, applied to silk so fine it seems to breathe beneath the writer's touch. The research alone could break a lesser mind. Ban Zhao must sift through mountains of imperial records, some carefully preserved, others crumbling like autumn leaves at the slightest touch. He interviews elderly court officials whose memories stretch back decades, their voices trembling as they recall long-dead emperors and forgotten scandals. He studies astronomical records, military dispatches, tax documents, marriage contracts, anything that might illuminate the true nature of how people lived and died and loved during the Han Dynasty's golden age. Each scroll represents months of work. First comes the gathering of facts, cross-referenced and verified through multiple sources. Then the delicate art of arrangement, which events deserve prominence, which figures merit detailed treatment, how to balance the grand sweep of political history with the intimate details that make the past feel alive and breathing, and always, always, the weight of accuracy. Ban Zhao knows that future generations will judge the Han Dynasty based on his words. Emperors yet unborn will look to his chronicle to understand their heritage. Scholars centuries in the future will build their knowledge upon the foundation he is laying, character by careful character, in the flickering light of oil lamps that burn late into countless nights. The ink itself tells a story of dedication. Made from pine soot collected during specific seasons, mixed with precious glue derived from animal hides, ground to perfect consistency on stone tablets worn smooth by generations of scholars. The very act of preparing to write becomes a meditation, a ritual that connects the historian to an unbroken chain of knowledge, keepers stretching back to the legendary Yellow Emperor himself. Ban Zhao's brushes are works of art in themselves. Wolf hair for the finest detail work, rabbit fur for broader strokes, each one shaped by master craftsmen who understand that the tools of scholarship must be worthy of the sacred task they serve. The silk scrolls arrive from imperial workshops, their surface prepared with a mixture that will hold ink for centuries, ensuring that today's truth becomes tomorrow's treasure. But perhaps most remarkable of all is the scope of Ban Zhao's vision. He refuses to write mere propaganda, though the temptation must be enormous. The current emperor would surely reward a historian who painted the Han Dynasty in colors of pure gold, who glossed over failures and magnified victories until the past became a mirror reflecting only glory. Instead, Ban Zhao chooses the harder path, the path of truth. His pages record not just the triumphs of great generals, but their devastating defeats. Not just the wisdom of beloved emperors, but their moments of cruelty and poor judgment. He understands that real history lives in the spaces between official proclamations, in the messy complexity of human nature that no imperial decree can fully control. Years pass like seasons, each one adding weight to the growing collection of scrolls that will become the Book of Han. Ban Zhao's reputation grows throughout the capital. Scholars journey from distant provinces just to glimpse his work, to witness history being born from the marriage of research and artistry. And then, disaster strikes with the sudden brutality that fate reserves for those who dare to create something beautiful in an uncertain world. The details remain murky, lost in the political intrigue that swirled around the Han court like morning mist. Perhaps Ban Zhao's dedication to truth made powerful enemies. Perhaps his growing influence threatened those who preferred their history, sanitized and safe. Or perhaps he simply found himself on the wrong side of imperial politics, caught in one of those deadly games where scholars become pawns and knowledge becomes dangerous. Whatever the cause, the result is devastating. Ban Zhao is arrested, charged with crimes that history has mercifully forgotten and thrown into prison. The great historian, whose mind has traveled across centuries and whose brush has given voice to emperors and generals, finds himself in a cell barely large enough for a man to lie down. The conditions are brutal. Prison in ancient China was not designed for rehabilitation. It was designed to break the human spirit as efficiently as possible. Ban Zhao, accustomed to the refined environment of scholarly pursuit, must now survive on coarse rice and polluted water. The hands that once wielded brushes with the precision of a master artist now bear the marks of chains and rough stone walls. But perhaps the cruelest torture of all is knowing that his life's work remains unfinished. Somewhere beyond these prison walls, the scrolls of the Book of Han wait in patient silence. Decades of research, years of careful writing, the distilled wisdom of an entire dynasty. All of it incomplete, like a song cut off in the middle of its most beautiful phrase. Ban Zhao dies in that prison, his brilliant mind silenced before it can complete the task that defined his existence. The news travels through the scholarly community like wildfire, leaving behind a trail of grief and disbelief. How could heaven allow such a tragedy? How could the gods permit the destruction of one of China's greatest historical minds? In the Ban family compound, the unfinished scrolls seem to reproach the living with their silence. Servants whisper as they pass the study where Ban Zhao once worked, as if the very air still holds the echo of his dedication. The inkstones remain where he left them, the brushes still arranged in their precise order, waiting for a hand that will never return. And in this moment of seemingly insurmountable loss, when it appears that one of China's greatest historical projects will join the countless other dreams that die with their dreamers, Ban Zhao steps forward from the shadows where women's voices have always lived, ready to pick up her brother's brush and complete what he could not finish. The weight of history settles on her shoulders like a silk robe, heavy with responsibility and bright with possibility. Jua summoned to the Imperial Library. The imperial summons arrives on silk paper, carried by a messenger whose robes bear the dragon seal of Emperor, he himself. The brushstrokes are elegant, formal. Yet beneath the ceremonial language lies something unprecedented. For the first time in the history of the Han Dynasty, a woman is being called to complete a work of imperial scholarship. Ban Zhao holds the summons with steady hands, though her heart beats like a caged bird. Around her, the household falls silent. Even the servants pause in their sweeping, understanding somehow that they are witnessing a moment that will echo through centuries. Her mother's eyes shine with pride and worry in equal measure. Her father's spirit seems to hover in the room, as if he too recognizes the magnitude of what is unfolding. "The Imperial Library," she whispers, and the words taste like destiny on her tongue. The journey to the palace takes her through streets she has walked 1,000 times, yet everything looks different now. The morning light falls differently on the familiar stones. The merchant's calls seem to carry new meaning. She is no longer simply Ban Zhao, daughter and sister, keeper of a scholarly household. She is Ban Zhao, summoned by the Son of Heaven himself to complete the Book of Han. As her carriage approaches the palace gates, she sees them for what they truly are, not just barriers of wood and bronze, but the threshold between the world where women's voices whisper in shadows and the world where they might finally speak aloud. The guards bow as she passes, their faces carefully neutral, but she catches the flicker of curiosity in their eyes. Word travels fast in the imperial city. They know who she is, what she represents. The palace corridors stretch before her like rivers of polished stone, each turn revealing new wonders. Painted screens depict the great emperors of old, their achievements recorded in gold and vermilion. Jade lions guard doorways to rooms filled with treasures from across the empire. Yet Ban Zhao's eyes are drawn not to the obvious splendors, but to the smaller details, the delicate brushwork on a minor official's scroll, the way morning light transforms ordinary silk into something luminous. These are the details that will matter when she writes. These are the moments that bring history to life. And then, the Imperial Library. The doors open before her like the gates of heaven itself, revealing a space so vast it seems to contain entire worlds. Scrolls line the walls from floor to ceiling, their silk and paper surfaces holding the accumulated wisdom of dynasties. The air itself seems thick with knowledge, heavy with the weight of preserved words. Sunlight streams through high windows, illuminating motes of dust that dance like tiny spirits among the texts. Here are the records of emperors and generals, philosophers and poets. Here are the chronicles of wars won and lost, of famines weathered and prosperity celebrated. Here are the official histories that will be copied and studied for generations to come. And somewhere in this vast collection, her brother's unfinished work waits for her touch. An elderly librarian approaches, his steps soft on the polished floor. His beard is white as winter clouds, his eyes sharp as a scholar's brush. He has served in this library for 40 years, he tells her, and never has he seen a woman enter these halls to work rather than simply to observe. His voice carries no judgment, only wonder, as if he too understands that history is being made with each breath she takes in this sacred space. The Book of Han, he says simply, gesturing toward a table where scrolls lie waiting, your brother's life work, and now, yours. Ban Zhao approaches the table as one might approach an altar. Here, spread before her, are the fruits of Ban Gu's decades of labor, charts and chronologies, carefully researched biographies, detailed accounts of political intrigue and military campaigns. The handwriting is achingly familiar. She has seen it evolve from the hasty scrawl of youth to the measured elegance of scholarly maturity. But there are gaps, sections that end mid-sentence, chapters that exist only as notes and fragments, places where her brother's voice simply stops. The silence is deafening, a reminder of all the words that will never be written, all the insights that died with their creator. Yet as she studies the work more closely, Ban Zhao begins to see something else. Opportunities, spaces where her own voice might add depth and nuance to the historical record. Her brother, for all his brilliance, had been shaped by the assumptions of his time and gender. He had recorded the deeds of empresses and concubines, but always from the outside, always through the lens of their relationships to powerful men. She could do more. She could write about women as complete beings, as individuals whose thoughts and dreams and struggles mattered in their own right. She could ensure that future generations would know not just what women did, but who they were. The weight of this possibility settles around her like a mantle. She is not just completing her brother's work, she is transforming it, expanding it, making it something richer and more complete than even he had envisioned. The librarian provides her with brushes and ink, paper and silk, all of the finest quality. The tools feel familiar in her hands, yet somehow different too. These are not the simple implements of household correspondence or personal study. These are the instruments of imperial scholarship, touched with the authority of the dragon throne itself. As she prepares her first characters, Ban Zhao becomes acutely aware of all the eyes that are not watching, all the voices that are not commenting. The other scholars in the library work at their own projects, copying texts and preparing commentaries. But she can feel their awareness of her presence like heat from a distant fire. Some are curious, others skeptical. A few, perhaps, are even hostile to the idea of a woman working among them. But their opinions, she realizes, matter less than she had expected. What matters is the work itself. What matters is giving voice to the voiceless, preserving the stories that might otherwise be lost. What matters is proving that wisdom and insight are not limited by the boundaries society tries to impose. Her first brushstroke falls onto the silk like a drop of midnight, dark and definitive, then another and another, until characters begin to form, then sentences, then paragraphs. The familiar rhythm of composition takes hold, that ancient dance between thought and expression that has sustained scholars since the beginning of time. But this is different. This is not practice or preparation. This is the real work, the work that will outlast her own brief life and speak to generations yet unborn. This is her voice joining the great conversation of history, adding its unique perspective to the chorus of human experience. Around her, the Imperial Library hums with quiet activity. Scrolls rustle like leaves in an autumn wind. Brushes whisper against silk and paper. The great work of preserving and transmitting knowledge continues, as it has for centuries, as it will for centuries to come. And now Ban Zhao is part of it. Now her voice joins that eternal chorus, carrying forward not just her brother's vision, but her own expanded understanding of what history can be when it includes all voices, not just the loudest ones. The afternoon light shifts and changes as she works, marking the passage of time in the most ancient way. But time itself seems less important now, less pressing. She has found her place in the great continuum of scholarship, her role in the endless human project of remembering and understanding. Here, in this place of accumulated wisdom, surrounded by the voices of the past and writing for the eyes of the future, Ban Zhao begins the work that will define her legacy, the work that will ensure her name is remembered not as an appendage to her famous family, but as a scholar and historian in her own right. The Book of Han awaits her completion. History awaits her voice, and she is finally ready to give it. Completing the book, a legacy forged. She begins at dawn each day, when the morning light first touches the silk scrolls spread across her writing table. Ban Zhao has arranged her workspace with the same methodical care her brother once employed. Bamboo strips organized by topic, inkstones prepared with fresh water, brushes arranged according to their thickness and purpose. But her approach carries something distinctly her own, a rhythm that honors both precision and intuition. The unfinished chapters stretch before her like an incomplete tapestry. Bangu had woven the early dynasties with masterful detail, but crucial threads remain loose, stories half told, entire sections existing only as scattered notes in his careful handwriting. She traces his characters with her finger, feeling the weight of his interrupted thoughts, understanding that completion requires more than simply filling in the gaps. Her first task is to understand the full scope of what remains. She spreads the existing scrolls across the floor of her study chamber, creating a map of finished and unfinished work. Here, the early emperor's reigns shine with Bangu's polished prose. There, biographical sketches wait in various stages, some nearly complete, others mere outlines, a few existing only as names on a list he'd intended to research. The challenge is immense. To complete the Book of Han properly, she must not merely continue her brother's work, but inhabit his scholarly mind while maintaining the integrity of historical truth. Each emperor's reign requires verification through multiple sources. Each biographical entry demands careful cross-referencing with court records, family genealogies, and contemporary accounts. She establishes a routine that will sustain her through the months ahead, morning hours for writing, when her mind is clearest and the library quiet. Afternoon hours for research, consulting the vast collections of documents, interviewing elderly court officials who remember events from decades past, sending letters to regional administrators requesting verification of local records. The biographical sections prove most challenging. Bangu had planned to include hundreds of notable figures from the former Han period. generals and ministers, scholars and poets, rebels and reformers. For each, she must gather scattered references, piece together career trajectories, understand their contributions and failures within the larger historical narrative. She finds herself drawn particularly to the incomplete entries about women, empresses and concubines whose stories exist only in fragments, their lives filtered through the perspectives of male chroniclers who rarely understood their actual influence or motivations. Here, her unique position allows her to read between the traditional lines, to recognize patterns of power and agency that previous historians had overlooked or dismissed. Empress Lu, for instance. The historical records paint her as manipulative and cruel, but Ban Zhao sees evidence of a woman navigating impossible political circumstances, making difficult choices to preserve stability during a vulnerable transition period. She writes carefully, presenting the traditional view while subtly including details that allow readers to form more nuanced judgments. Her research methods become increasingly sophisticated. She develops a system of cross-referencing that allows her to catch inconsistencies in dates, identify biased sources, verify claims through multiple witnesses. When official records conflict, she seeks out alternative sources, private letters, family histories, even songs and poems that preserve different versions of events. The work demands not just scholarly rigor, but physical endurance. Hours spent hunched over scrolls strain her back and eyes. Her fingers become permanently stained with ink. The mental effort of holding dozens of complex narratives in her mind simultaneously leaves her exhausted each evening, yet somehow deeply satisfied. She finds particular joy in the moments when scattered pieces suddenly coalesce into clear understanding. A puzzling reference in one document gains meaning when connected to a seemingly unrelated passage in another source. A biographical sketch that seemed incomplete reveals its logic when she discovers the missing context in a third text. Her writing style evolves as she works. While maintaining consistency with Ban Zhao's established tone and approach, she brings her own clarity to complex political situations, her own insight into human motivations. Her entries often illuminate not just what happened, but why. The personal pressures and cultural forces that shaped historical actors' decisions. The seasonal cycles mark her progress. Through summer heat and winter cold, she maintains her disciplined schedule. Palace servants grow accustomed to finding her in the library before sunrise, still working as evening shadows lengthen. Her dedication becomes legendary among the court scholars, who speak with admiration of her tireless commitment to accuracy and completeness. Gradually, the gaps in the great work begin to fill. Unfinished chapters reach completion. Biographical sketches achieve their final form. The comprehensive chronicle of the former Han Dynasty takes shape under her careful guidance, each section polished until it meets her exacting standards. She pays special attention to the work's internal consistency, ensuring that dates align across different sections, that characterizations remain coherent, that the overall narrative maintains its logical flow from beginning to end. This requires constant review and revision, checking new sections against earlier chapters, sometimes discovering errors that require careful correction. Her correspondence with scholars in distant provinces expands as she seeks verification for obscure historical details. She writes dozens of letters requesting clarification about local events, asking for access to regional archives, consulting with elderly residents who might remember stories passed down from their grandparents. The weight of responsibility never leaves her. She understands that her work will become the definitive historical record, consulted by scholars for generations to come. Every decision about inclusion or exclusion, every judgment about the reliability of sources, every choice of emphasis or interpretation will influence how future readers understand this crucial period of Chinese history. Yet alongside the pressure comes deep fulfillment. Each completed section represents not just scholarly achievement, but a kind of resurrection, bringing vanished voices back to life, preserving crucial knowledge that might otherwise disappear forever. She feels herself becoming a bridge between past and future, ensuring that the wisdom and experiences of previous generations will continue to guide and inform those yet to come. As months pass into years, the end comes into sight. The final chapters take shape under her patient care. The last biographical entries receive their finishing touches. The great work that began with her father's vision, continued through her brother's dedication, approaches completion under her scholarly guidance. The Book of Han stands nearly finished, a monument to historical scholarship, a treasury of preserved wisdom, a testament to the power of sustained intellectual commitment across generations. And at its heart, woven throughout its thousands of carefully crafted passages, lies Ban Zhao's unique contribution, her insistence on including voices that might otherwise remain silent, her commitment to presenting complex truths rather than simple narratives, her understanding that history belongs not just to the powerful, but to all who lived it. Sakroers, a teacher's wisdom. This recognition of her scholarly abilities, this trust in her judgment and wisdom, opens doors that had never been opened to a woman before. The emperor himself requests that Ban Zhao take on a role unprecedented in the history of the Han court. She is asked to become tutor to the Empress Deng Sui and the other noble ladies of the imperial household. Picture her now, walking through the corridors of the women's quarters, her footsteps soft against polished stone floors, her arms carrying scrolls and writing materials. The space around her is different from the vast imperial library, more intimate, more personal. Silk hangings in deep blues and greens filter the afternoon light. The air carries the gentle fragrance of jasmine and sandalwood. Here, in these private chambers, Ban Zhao discovers a new kind of purpose, one that feeds her soul in ways she hadn't expected. The young women who gather around her. Empress Deng Sui, barely 20 years old and hungry for knowledge. The daughters of ministers and generals, their eyes bright with curiosity. They remind her of herself at their age, asking questions about the world beyond what they've been told. But Ban Zhao brings something revolutionary to their education. Where other tutors might focus solely on poetry and proper conduct, she opens their minds to history, to philosophy, to the art of clear thinking and persuasive writing. She shows them the same texts she studied with her father and brother, the same classics that shaped her understanding of the world. Learning, she tells them one afternoon, her voice gentle but firm, is not decoration for a woman's mind. It is foundation. It is strength. It is the gift that no one can take from you. Watch as she guides Empress Deng Sui through a particularly challenging passage from the Book of Changes, her finger tracing the characters, her voice patient as she explains not just the meaning, but the deeper wisdom embedded in the text. The young empress leans forward, completely absorbed, her questions thoughtful and probing. In these teaching moments, Ban Zhao discovers something profound about the nature of knowledge itself. She realizes that learning is not meant to be hoarded, not meant to remain locked away in libraries or confined to the minds of scholars. Knowledge grows when it's shared. Wisdom deepens when it's passed from one generation to the next. The impact of her teaching ripples outward in ways she could never have anticipated. Empress Deng Sui, armed with the historical knowledge and critical thinking skills Ban Zhao has given her, begins to participate more meaningfully in court discussions. She offers insights that surprise the ministers, perspectives that draw from the deep well of learning her tutor has helped her discover. The other young women, too, begin to change. They carry themselves differently, speak with greater confidence, ask questions that reveal minds awakened to possibilities they hadn't known existed. In their letters home to their families, they share ideas and observations that reflect their expanding understanding of the world. But perhaps most importantly, Ban Zhao teaches them to see themselves as part of the great continuum of history. She shares with them the stories she discovered while researching the Book of Han, tales of empresses who influenced policy, of women who wrote poetry that moved mountains, of mothers who shaped the minds of future leaders. "You are not separate from history," she reminds them during one evening gathering, the room lit by the warm glow of oil lamps. "You are writing it. With every choice you make, every word you speak, every act of courage or kindness, the women who come after you will look back and wonder, what did she think? How did she live? What wisdom did she leave behind?" These words settle into their hearts like seeds in fertile ground. Years later, when these young women have become influential figures in their own right, when they face difficult decisions or moments of doubt, they will remember their teacher's voice, her unwavering belief in their capacity for wisdom and leadership. Through her role as educator, Ban Zhao comes to understand that her greatest contribution may not be the historical work she completed, important as that was. It may be these young minds she has helped to awaken, these future leaders she has equipped with the tools of critical thinking and historical perspective. In the quiet moments after her students have departed, as she tidies away the scrolls and brushes, she feels a deep satisfaction. This is how change truly happens, not through grand proclamations or dramatic gestures, but through the patient work of education, through the careful tending of young minds, through the sacred act of passing wisdom from one generation to the next. The seeds she plants in these teaching sessions will grow in ways she cannot imagine, influencing decisions, shaping perspectives, creating ripples that will extend far beyond the walls of the imperial palace, far beyond her own lifetime. Dao echoes in time, Ban Zhao's enduring influence. Years pass like seasons in the imperial gardens, and Ban Zhao's influence spreads through the palace like morning light touching dewdrops on bamboo leaves. The young women she teaches become mothers themselves, passing on not just the traditional skills of their station, but something far more precious: the understanding that their voices matter, that their thoughts have weight, that they too are part of the great tapestry of history being woven each day. The Book of Han stands complete now, its thousands of characters a monument not just to her brother's vision, but to her own revolutionary approach to preserving the past. Within its pages, the stories of forgotten empresses come alive. The wisdom of palace women is recorded for posterity. The quiet heroism of mothers and daughters finds its rightful place alongside the deeds of generals and ministers. She has created something that never existed before, a history that breathes with the full spectrum of human experience. In the quiet hours of evening, when the palace settles into its ancient rhythms, Ban Zhao often finds herself in the library where it all began, surrounded by the scrolls and texts that have been her companions for so many years. The lamplight flickers across the characters she has written, each one chosen with such care, each sentence crafted to carry truth across the centuries like a bridge spanning time itself. She thinks sometimes of the young girl she once was, full of questions about the missing women in the histories, wondering why their voices had been allowed to fade into silence. That girl could never have imagined that she would become the answer to her own questions, that her hands would be the ones to weave those lost voices back into the great story of their people. The Empress visits her often in these quiet moments, no longer the uncertain young woman who first came to learn, but a confident leader whose decisions are informed by the wisdom Ban Zhao has shared. They speak of governance and philosophy, of the delicate balance required to rule with both strength and compassion, of the ways that understanding history can illuminate the path forward. Other scholars seek her counsel now. Men who once might have dismissed the thoughts of a woman now recognize the depth of her learning, the precision of her mind. She has opened doors that seemed permanently sealed, not through force or confrontation, but through the quiet power of undeniable excellence. Her work speaks for itself, And in doing so, it speaks for all the women whose potential had been overlooked for generations. The seasons turn. Spring blossoms give way to summer's fullness, autumn's golden peace, winter's contemplative stillness. Ban Zhao ages gracefully, her hair silvering like moonlight on water, her movements taking on the measured dignity of one who has found her true purpose and fulfilled it completely. She has given the world something that will outlast palaces and dynasties, the gift of preserved memory, the treasure of recorded wisdom. Students come from distant provinces to study her methods, to learn not just what she has written, but how she approaches the sacred work of capturing truth. They leave carrying more than knowledge. They carry a new understanding of what scholarship can be when it embraces the full range of human experience. In her final years, Ban Zhao often walks in the palace gardens at twilight, watching the light fade slowly from gold to amber to the deep blue of approaching night. The same stars that witnessed her childhood questions now shine down on her life's answers, written in characters that will survive long after the gardens have returned to dust. She has become what she once sought in the histories, a woman whose story will not be forgotten, whose voice will not fade into silence. But more than that, she has ensured that countless other voices will be remembered too, that the great conversation of history will include the whispers as well as the proclamations, the lullabies, as well as the battle songs. The Book of Han rests in the Imperial Library, its completion marking not an ending, but a beginning. Future historians will build upon her foundation. Future women will find courage in her example. Future generations will benefit from the precedent she has set, the doors she has opened, the paths she has made visible through her patient, persistent work. And as the evening settles into night, as the palace grows quiet and the last lamps are extinguished, Ban Zhao's legacy spreads outward like ripples on still water, touching shores she will never see, carrying her voice forward through time in an endless echo of wisdom and grace, her spirit woven forever into the great stories she helped to preserve, her dreams fulfilled in ways both profound and beautifully, peacefully complete.